Hello and welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports. And today we're going to do a little bit of a chat on this bike here. It's a Cervelo P2, and this is a post-service summary, if you will. Now this bike, I've worked on it a couple of times for a couple of different reasons. But this latest time is probably the most intense service that I've done on this bike. And what I mean by that is, and it's probably a cautionary tale, the gentleman did not replace his chain soon enough. And so there was a lot of wear and tear on all his other drivetrain components. And so briefly, what we had to do is we had to replace his chain, his cassette, and both his chain rings. And now this is one of those things where if you frequently replace your chain, like let's say, it will depend on how much you ride, what conditions you ride in, how clean you keep your chain, which is another thing. This chain was very, very dirty. The drivetrain was very, very dirty. And so you just create this paste, this grinding paste on your drivetrain components. So anyway, unfortunately, all of this stuff had to get replaced because it was just so worn. And so we had to replace the cassette, the chain, and the chain rings, as I mentioned. But we also had to do a couple of other little things. So we had to replace the brake cables and the bar tape. Figured, okay, it's already in the shop. Let's get these things taken care of, and then you'll be good for a while. So if you folks don't know, with these brake levers, there's a bolt inside there that secures that brake lever to the base bar. But you have to turn it in the opposite direction. So it's a lefty, tighty, righty, loosen. So you turn it to the right, which would be generally a tightening direction, to loosen that, that brake lever. And then well, you have to get the brake cable out of there to do that. Or in this case, you remove the brake cable, remove or loosen the brake lever, and then you can replace the brake housing, right? Because the brake housing sits inside of there's a recess inside your brake lever. Now, oh, by the way, these are 10-speed brake lever, shifter lever, if you want to call them that. And they have the 2 buttons set up. Now, for a little while, I was doing a few retros on a few bikes because sometime in the 11-speed setups, they got rid of the 2 buttons. Now, on a personal level, I prefer 2 buttons on each of these brake levers. That way you can shift up or down. But they ended up with a single button, and you could only shift up with one hand and shift down with the other hand. So then you couldn't do the big chain ring. So that was just goofy. I don't know why Shimano did that, but they did. And but anyway, so that's sometimes I don't understand why Shimano does the things that they do, but they did that. Some of you might notice, okay, there's some long stems on here, and you might have even noticed, look at those brake calipers. Why didn't he, when he replaced the cable, why didn't he just reset them all the way in? Well, here's the thing. This gentleman has a different set of wheels that he races with. And so this is how he trains, or this is the setup for training. And it only makes sense to carry long stem tubes. That way you don't always have to be like, oh, okay, I'm racing, so now I put the race wheels on. Oh, let me check my my pack, make sure I've got, long stem valve tubes in there. This way it's always there. You always have the long stem valves. And if you've got multiple wheel sets, which someone like myself has multiple depths of their wheel sets, if you just have the long stem valve in your toolkit, that's it, you're covered. One thing also, white bikes, they are so difficult to get clean, and there was just so much grease all over this bike, or oil I should say, from the chain. And then there's also, some scuff marks here that I tried to use some rubbing compound to try to make them a little bit better. They were just really bad. But, and then also if we look at this saddle, I'm just curious on the triathlon side, how many of you like this ISM saddle? Now I test ride bikes, obviously, once I repair them. And I've never understood the comfort of this. Now you're supposed to sit like pretty far forward on this saddle. And on my road saddles, I've never gotten on with saddles that have a cutout like that. But, for some folks, that is the only way to go. So I'd like to make a comment down below what kind of saddle you ride on your tri bike, and if you prefer these ISM saddles. And they've got so many different models, by the way, but this is the one that he has found comfortable. The armrest, yes, that's a little bit of an interesting setup, but one of those brackets broke, and he just put something else on, and that's what it is. But this for a long time was the best-selling tri-bike from Cervélo. It had a very, very good price point. They were scaling down on quite a bit of the components. They may have had like FSA brakes on it, and an FSA crankset, and then some really entry-level wheels. And they had these price points. I was selling this bike for many, many years at one of the other stores that I worked and managed. And it was the perfect bike to get people from their road bike to move them over to a good value price point tri-bike, because like I said, they skimped on the components. They basically stressed the fact that they put all the engineering into the frame, and that if you bought one of these bikes, you typically had a race set of wheel. You had a set of race wheels that you could always swap out and dramatically change the bike's aerodynamics by having a better set of wheels. So yeah, that was that was the thing. We just sold so many of these at my last shop, well, 3 shops ago anyway. Okay, well, that's all for today. Just wanted to give you folks a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Just please keep your chains fresh, keep them clean. Otherwise, you end up having to replace all your drivetrain components when a chain is anywhere between 30 to 40 bucks. So anyway, that's all for today. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you up the road.